Okay, I received a couple emails which suggested to me that perhaps a review of the effective interest method of amortization and recording interest expense and interest revenue using that method might not be a bad idea. So let's go ahead and go through a quick example. Let's go ahead and have some bonds sold to a related party. Let's have a $100,000 bond issue sold January 1st, 01. 10% coupon, 5-year, interest paid each 7/1 and 1/1, so its interest is paid semi-annually. Let's say the bonds were sold to the related party at 104. Okay. Now these bonds are being sold at a premium, 104% of face value, and the reason they're selling at more than face value is because they pay an above market rate of interest. So if they're paying 10% annually, that means that the market rate of interest must be less than 10%. Now again, it's 10% annually paid semi-annually, so we're going to think in terms of 6-month periods. So it's 5% semi-annual coupon and a market rate of, I don't know, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7%. Let's go ahead and figure out what the rate of interest on these things is. So again, we're going to have our cash flows first. We've got $104,000 being invested in the bonds. And what are the cash flows over this 5-year time span? We're going to have $5,000 of interest every period for 10 6-month periods. And then at the end of the 10 years, in addition to the interest, we're also going to have our principal being repaid. So we do the effective rate of interest, we do use our IRR function. IRR, open parentheses, highlight that with your mouse, close parentheses, and we have an IRR of 4.495%. Again, that jibes with our intuitive expectation. These bonds pay 5% semi-annually. The market only wants roughly 4.5% semi-annually. So these bonds pay an above market rate of interest, so everybody wants to buy them, and so they bid the price up to 104. Let's go ahead and set up our amortization table. Let me go ahead and format my cells first. So I'm going to need to wrap text. Okay. We're going to start with our period. We have our beginning carrying value. We have we multiply that by the effective rate. That equals our interest revenue for the bond buyer, interest expense for the bond issuer, as the case may be. We subtract out the coupon interest, and that gives us our amortization. And just to round things out, we can then have a column for our ending carrying value. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this in. First period. And again, I'm just going to copy this. Beginning carrying value, $104,000. The effective rate is that. Now, I want that to be a permanent cell reference, so I'm going to go and put a $sign in front of the 21. That means that when I copy that cell downward, it's always going to say, give me the value that's 3 columns over and in the 21st row. So, that says D. Looking up here at the cell at the address bar up here in the top. Whoops. That one says D21. That one says D21, 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 all the way down. It's going to be the same cell reference. Interest revenue or expense, the effective rate times the beginning of year carrying value. Our coupon interest is that fixed $5,000. Amortization is the difference between our interest expense and the coupon revenue. Sorry, the coupon interest. Whoops, that shouldn't be a percent. Okay, and so our ending carrying value is our beginning of year carrying value plus or minus the amount of the amortization. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just make this beginning carrying value for year 2 is the ending carrying value for year 1. I'm going to go ahead and copy that down and copy these down. You notice the one thing I didn't copy down directly was this one. If I just drag that one down, it would give me 5,000, 5,001, 5,002, 5,003, 5,004, 5,005, and so on. And I'm sure there's some way I can turn that off. But in any event, all I do is I say, look, make this cell, cell I12, have the value of cell I11, the cell directly above it. Okay, so once I do that, I can go ahead and just highlight this and copy it all the way down, and we have our amortization table. Now again, as we see, this has worked out the way we want it to. The ending carrying value is equal to the face value of the bonds. That means we have exactly amortized the premium on these things. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our amortization table, and oops, I want to make sure I've got these things just going to 2 decimal places when I copy it. So format cells, number 2, okay. I want my commas in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy our amortization table to a Word document and do step 2. Okay, so copy and paste. Here's our amortization table. And again, for the issuer, the issuer is going to issue the bonds for $104,000. They're going to have bonds payable of $100,000 and a premium on bonds. I'm just going to see premium on bonds of $4,000. 7101, their first semi-annual interest payment. Again, we're just basically going to pull the interest payment right off of our amortization table. We're going to have interest expense, since this is the issuer, interest expense of $46.74. We're going to write a check for $5,000. The difference is our amortization. So interest expense, $46.74.40. We're amortizing that premium, so we're going to go ahead and debit the premium on bonds for $325.60, and we write a check for $5,000. Similarly, at the end of the year, we're going to do pretty much the same thing. We're going to have interest expense, and now we're looking at our second 6-month period. So on our amortization table, we're looking at line 2. I say, okay, interest expense is going to be $46.59.77. Okay, in reviewing this, I noticed that I typed in 56.59.77 instead of the correct 46.59.77. Going back and re-recording this entire thing is not at the top of my list of things to do today, so please just let it be known that the 56.59.77 that I just typed for interest expense should in fact be 46.59.77. We're going to amortize $340.23 of that premium. But instead of writing a check, we're going to accrue interest payable. And that interest payable will be paid off January 1st, 02. Like so. Okay, and we have the same process over and over and over again for 5 years total. Over on the bond buyer's side of the world, let's go ahead and just make a fresh page here. Copy and paste our amortization table again. Over on the bond buyer's part of the transaction, they're going to have an investment in bonds for $104,000. Again, generally speaking, the bond buyer doesn't separate it into face value versus premium or discount. They just record the investment for the full face value, and that's what they paid for the bonds. So there's our starting point, January 1st. And again, this is going to be a mirror image of what's going on over on the bond issuer's books. It's the exact same amortization table, but now we're talking about interest revenue instead of interest expense. So on July 1st, they're going to receive a check for $5,000. They're going to record interest revenue of $46.74.40. The difference is the amortization, and now instead of amortizing an account called premium or discount, what they're basically doing is they're chipping away at this investment account. Because again, by the time the end of the 5th year rolls around, that investment needs to be down to $100,000. So we're going to go ahead and reduce the investment by the amortization of $325.60. 1231.01, again, mirror image of what's going on over on the bond issuer's books. Now, we're not actually receiving a check today. We're accruing interest receivable. But again, we have our interest revenue of, looking at the amortization table for line 2, $46.59.77. And we amortize another $340.23 of that additional bond premium. And again, we amortize that by decreasing our investment in bonds. And again, January 1st, 02, we receive our check for $5,000. Okay? Okay, hope that helps.